Welcome to the deep dive. We dive into, well, a whole stack of sources, articles, new research, even social media takes to pull out the key insights for you. Today, we're tackling one of history's really big ones, often controversial, definitely misunderstood, the Crusades.
Absolutely. We're talking late 11th century, 1095, right through to the late 13th century.
Yeah, and these weren't just battles. They completely reshaped the medieval world, didn't they? Left this huge legacy of faith, violence, cultural mixing, all of it.
It's a period many people feel they know, but honestly, the more you look, the more layers you find. On the surface, okay, it looks like a quest to reclaim Jerusalem. Simple enough.
Right. That's the story we often get. But was it just that? Just this single holy mission? Or were there, much deeper, more tangled things going on, forces pulling Europe into this massive, centuries-long conflict?
That's the core question, really.
And that's what this deep dive is about.
Yeah.
It's your shortcut, basically, to getting properly informed on this. We want to give you those aha moments, maybe some surprising bits, so you can really grasp what kicked it all off without getting buried in textbooks.
And you'll hopefully see how one very powerful idea, a rallying cry, could tap into so many different human motivations, everything from deep spiritual belief to, well, very earthly goals.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's get into the drivers.
Mm.
What actually ignited the Crusades? Because looking at the sources, it's crystal clear it wasn't just one spark.
No, not at all. It's more like a web, deeply interwoven, multiple things coming together at the same time.
Right.
What's really fascinating here is how all these different forces converged. They pushed thousands of people, knights, peasants, everyone, to take up the cross and march thousands of miles. We can kind of break it down into maybe 5 key drivers, each one pretty significant.
Okay, first one, the one everyone knows, religious zeal. We're talking about this intense spiritual feeling. So strong it could turn, I don't know, ordinary people into warriors, convinced they were doing God's work. Reclaiming Jerusalem wasn't just about geography, was it? It was the center of their spiritual world, where Christ died and was resurrected.
Exactly. Recent studies really emphasize this. Medieval Christians genuinely saw the Holy Land as like their divine inheritance.
Yeah.
And then you add these stories coming back, pilgrims being harassed, holy sites being desecrated, whether entirely true or exaggerated, they fueled the sense of outrage, a real crisis footing.
Yeah, a powerful motivator. But then that gets tangled up with some pretty shrewd political strategy, doesn't it?
Oh, completely. Pope Urban II, who called the First Crusade, was a very clever leader. He wasn't just thinking spiritually. He saw this as a huge opportunity. Europe was fractured. Remember the Great Schism in 1054? Christianity was split.
Right, East and West.
Exactly. So a holy war, a common enemy that could unify Christians, maybe heal the rift, definitely boost the church's authority. And crucially, it could redirect all that knightly violence. You had these feudal lords constantly fighting each other across Europe. This gave them somewhere else to fight.
Channeling the aggression outwards, like one analysis put it, kind of a perfect storm of piety and politics.
That's a good way to put it. And the politics weren't just internal to Europe either.
No, you had these long-standing cultural tensions, fears built up over centuries.
Think about it from their perspective. Centuries of Muslim expansion. Spain, North Africa, Sicily. It felt like Christendom was shrinking, pushed back.
And then the Seljuk Turks surge into Byzantine lands, getting closer. The Fatimids hold Jerusalem. It starts to feel existential, right? Like Christianity is genuinely under threat from the east.
Yeah, that Seljuk expansion into Anatolia really ramped up the anxiety. It wasn't just abstract, it felt immediate, like the borders were closing in. That fear was palpable.
Okay, so fear, faith, politics. But let's be honest, there was also straightforward economic ambition involved.
Absolutely. You can't ignore the material side. For many crusaders, this was also about opportunity. Think about the structure of feudal society. You've got noble families, but only the eldest son inherits the land, usually. What about the younger sons?
Landless knights, looking for fortune.
Exactly. The Holy Land, this distant place. It represented potential wealth, new lands, status, adventure. A 2024 paper really highlighted this blend, faith providing the justification, but the lure of, well, getting rich or building your own little kingdom was definitely there.
So less purely God wills it, and maybe a bit of God might provide me with a castle.
Something like that, for some at least. It's human nature mixed in with the divine call.
And then the final piece, the immediate spark that lights the fire. The Byzantine, please.
Right. This makes it concrete. The Byzantine Empire, Eastern Christianity's bastion, was in serious trouble. They'd suffered a massive defeat against the Seljuks at the Battle of Manzikert in 1071. It crippled them.
So they asked the West for help.
Yes. Emperor Michael VII wrote to Pope Gregory VII back in 1074, basically pleading for military aid against the Turks. Later, similar pleas reached Pope Urban II. This gave him the perfect casus belli, the rallying cry. It wasn't just about Jerusalem anymore. It was about defending fellow Christians under attack.
So it all comes together: deep religious feeling, clever political maneuvering, old fears flaring up, personal ambition, and then this urgent cry for help.
Exactly, an incredibly complex mix. That's what transformed it from maybe a regional conflict into something that spanned centuries and continents.
And the effects, they lasted long after the fighting stopped. I mean, it massively deepened the split between Christianity and Islam, didn't it? Echoes we still feel.
Definitely. From the European side, it was often framed as this holy noble quest. But if you were living in the Levant, in places like Syria or
It
Palestine,
looked very different.
it looked like a brutal invasion by foreigners. It shattered centuries of, well, maybe not always peaceful, but functioning coexistence between Muslims, Christians, and Jews in the region.
Yeah, I saw a historian point out recently, I think on social media, how medieval European accounts often played up the barbarity of Muslims to justify the Crusades. Those narratives can be sticky.
They really can. And Muslim chroniclers at the time, people like Ibn al-Athir, they wrote about it too. They documented the ruthlessness of the Crusaders, the shock of the invasion. But they also acknowledged their military skill sometimes. Their accounts show resilience, attempts to unify against this outside force. It shaped their historical memory profoundly.
But it wasn't all negative legacy, was it? Especially for Europe, there were some perhaps unexpected upsides.
True, though often unintended. The Crusades definitely opened up more direct trade routes between East and West. Europeans got more access to spices, silks, textiles, stuff they hadn't seen much of before.
And ideas too, right?
Crucially, yes,
Hmm.
things like Arabic mathematics, science, philosophy started flowing more readily into Europe. You could argue this cross-cultural contact, despite the violence, helped lay some groundwork for the Renaissance later on.
So this raises an important question then, doesn't it? When you look at all this, was it really about faith? Or was it more about politics, power, economics?
What's fascinating here is that it's almost never purely one or the other, is it? History is rarely that neat. It's the mix. The way deep faith can be harnessed for political ends, how spiritual goals get tangled with worldly ambition, how fear drives action.
Understanding those contradictions, like faith driving violence, the quest for unity causing deeper division, piety mixed with greed.
Exactly. Grappling with that complexity helps us understand not just the Crusades, but maybe how human societies work, even today.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes you think, how do these same intertwined motives, religion, politics, economics, fear, how do they continue to shape conflicts and maybe even cooperation in our own world?
That's the thought to really mull over, isn't it?
Mm.
How much or how little has fundamentally changed in the way these forces interact?